Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Aeon Dishing Up Nutrition Kitchen. We're happy to have you back for part 2 of our recipe demo. My name is Madeline. I'm one of the dietitians with the American Oncology Network, and I'm joined by my lovely coworker, Nicole. She's going to be teaching us how to make a chickpea sunflower sandwich for times when meat just kind of tastes weird. So we're again happy that you decided to join us, and we're excited to welcome you into Nicole's kitchen and get going on this delicious recipe. Nicole, how are you doing today?
Hey Madeline, doing great. Thanks for
Good.
joining us. Today we are going to be making a recipe that's going to transition as well into the spring, summer months, while also taking into account what we hear quite often. Either meat is just tasting downright weird, or things are not tasting right. So I think this chickpea sunflower salad is going to be a good fit. I'm going to start off with 1 can of chickpeas. So what I did is I just rinsed it. I took one of Madeline's great tips and I rinsed it in hot or warm water. I left maybe 5 or 10% of the liquid in here. Fun fact, the liquid in here is called aquafaba and it helps with thick meat. It also makes it a lot easier to mash. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pour it in our bowl here. If you don't have a masher, you can always use a fork. I'm going to go ahead and give it a quick mash. And from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding some of the ingredients. It's a really simple dish. Not a lot of added ingredients required, but it makes for a really filling salad. I'm going to grab my ingredients right here. So the recipe calls for either mayonnaise, or it notes you can substitute tahini. So tahini is a sesame paste. It's really nice in terms of flavor. I find it's a little unexpected. When I did it, it was maybe a little bit too much to do a full substitution. Madeline, I know you've tried it. What did you think?
Yeah, I definitely can understand what you're saying. I think doing a dilution is sometimes a more approachable way to start using tahini, especially if you've never tasted the flavor before. But tahini is a great ingredient. It's an excellent source of calcium. So, trying to diversify our intake it's a good way to do that.
It also has some protein in there. So both the chickpeas and the sunflower seeds, as well as tahini, are going to be a source of protein. So even though we're not eating meat necessarily, we're still getting protein and fiber in this. So again, it's kind of the texture, a little bit of like a natural peanut butter. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do about 1 tablespoon of tahini, and then about 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise. You can use all different kinds of mayonnaise. Mine is just the good old Duke's, right? So I'm just adding this in here, and then I'm just going to keep mashing. So it's a pretty simple, place to start. The recipe calls for Dijon and maple syrup. If you don't have either of these, what you could do is always use some, bread and butter pickles, like the little relish chips. Again, it'll have some of the twang and some of the sweet. What I've been loving is some of this. This is a little Spice Walla seasoning collection. So inside here, we've got little packets of seasoning blends. So I find that when I put these in here, all I really need are kind of my basics. Just a little bit of the tahini, some mayonnaise, the spice, and my sunflower seeds and onion. So when I do it, if you look down at the dill part of this, 2 tablespoons of fresh dill, it's about a 1 tablespoon fresh to 1 teaspoon of dried. And I found that worked well. So I'm going to take 2 teaspoons of using the cowboy grilling rub today. I'm going to do 2 teaspoons in here, just straight in my bowl.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that we kind of forget when we're looking at recipes. I feel like even myself, sometimes I get discouraged because I don't have fresh dill in the house or I don't have the fresh basil, but really you can use just a portion of the amount in a dried form and it still will provide you a nice flavor. So that's a really good point.
Absolutely. Just use a little bit less. And you can make this work with anything. I've used, I think you and I were talking about using like a curry, how good that would be.
Yeah,
So
I think we could clean it.
a lot of ways that we could make this recipe kind of work, especially if your taste changes, are present. Things just aren't tasting like they should. I always like to say that expectation is a little bit of a premeditated resentment. So in a lot of ways, see if we can lower those expectations by maybe trying something that we wouldn't normally try. So
That's a really good point too. And, first time around, I know as dietitians, we like to encourage people to start small with the flavors, taste it, and you can always add more. It's really hard to go backwards and take it away. But you can start with a smaller amount and then, based on what your taste buds are doing that day, you can always add a little bit more if it's, what's needed to make it pop.
absolutely. And you can get really as wild as you want to with this. I've got some fun toppings that we're gonna put in. I've put just avocado I have, like leftover avocado, just went ahead and added it in there. You can add olive oil if you needed to kind of be focusing on ways to get more calories, more protein. Or if maybe you're looking for a little bit of a different texture, you could absolutely do that. So I've been mashing. It takes a while, but what I'm going for is I want a little bit of texture left. I'm not really going for something as smooth as hummus. I wanted to have some texture, but I also wanted to be something that's really kind of scoopable, if you will. I think this is looking pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to finish it out by adding a little bit of salt, just a little. Again, if you use beans that were salted, or you have like a seasoning packet that have extra salt, you may choose to omit that. Just a little bit of pepper. Again, this is where you could have fun if you really like something that's spicy, or if you feel like that's not me, I just want bland and simple. Hey, that's where you just kind of, throttle it back a little bit. But this is looking about where I want it. I'm going to do just a few red onions. The recipe calls for 1/4 cup. I'm going to use just maybe a little bit less. If you don't have red onion or if it's too strong, use some scallions that are chopped. You could use a Vidalia onion. When I did this, when I cut them, just make sure it's a pretty fine cut. You don't necessarily, want to bite into a mouthful of onion, but it's a great way to flavor it.
That's looking wonderful, Nicole. I like how the texture, like you said, it's not super pureed and smooth. It still gives you that mouth feel of, a regular maybe chicken salad or tuna salad, but without the off-putting flavor, of meats or animal products that we might be experiencing during our treatment or even after.
Absolutely. It's also got the crunch of the sunflower seeds. Recipe again calling for 1/4 cup here. You can use salted, you could use just, a really simple sunflower seed. If you don't have this, Madeline tried it using pistachios and found that was really great. So get creative when you're doing these. And I think at this point, really, I'm going to switch out and just use my spoon here and kind of work in those sunflower seeds. So you can see there is some texture. It's definitely been matched, but it's scoopable, a lot like your traditional chicken salad. If this is a little bit too out there, what you can do is just take your chicken salad recipe and substitute in some chickpeas. So this is the salad part here. I'm going to set it to the side because I want to walk through how we're going to do that kind of special sauce that came with this recipe. Sauces are great to add flavor. We've made a few on here before, but this one I think is going to be an a nice way to get a little bit more flavor. You can put it on the sandwich, or if you were to have, any leftover, it'd be great to top a salad with. Or if you're doing like a bean-based bowl for lunch or dinner, be a great add-on there. So in here, I've got a 1/4 cup of hummus. I'm adding some fresh lemon juice, so it's half of a lemon, and I just, squeezed it in there. I'm gonna do a little bit of salt.
Do you think that'd be a good dip to maybe dip vegetables in if we were trying other things than just maybe the good old Hidden Valley Ranch dip?
Oh, absolutely. And so if you notice the seasoning that was in our chicken salad or chickpea salad, the dill, it calls for the dill in here. So I'm using my cowboy grill and rub seasoning in here, but I absolutely think you could take whichever seasoning you wanted, and you could definitely make a great dip. So it's going to be loud for just a second, but it'll be worth it. Perfect. So it's a pretty loose spread. Again, if you were looking for more of a dip, what you could do is just add a little more hummus, or even throw a few chickpeas in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we can plate this. Give me just a second. I'm going to grab a few options. Let's see. I don't know if y'all can see. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to slide this right up here. Okay, can you see me, Madeline?
Yes, those look great. I see greens and grains and all the good stuff.
That's exactly. So again, thinking about the symptoms here, right? Things aren't tasting right. Meat is just got a funny texture. Trying to think outside of the box. You can do a sandwich, absolutely. You could do a wrap. This might be something that's a little bit outside your comfort zone. What I have is I have locally grown butter lettuce. So I'm going to use it as like a lettuce cup. It's going to have crunch. You could also use iceberg lettuce. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of my chickpea salad. And I'm just going to kind of put a scoop in there. And again, you make it however, if you're needing smaller portions, you can absolutely do that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of avocado. Do a little bit on the side there.
That looks
I'm
so
going to take some of my dressing. So again, it's pretty loose, but it's the perfect thing just to kind of sprinkle over this to give it that little bit of moisture. I love red peppers, and I always want a little bit of color when I'm eating. So I'm just going to put it in here kind of on both sides to where when I roll it up, I'll get a crunch on either side. And I always think of celery when I'm thinking about chicken salad. So I got a little bit of celery I'm going to top it with here. So that's one option. Another option is you can absolutely take a really, really nice piece of bread and just use that spread again on here, spreading it out. And again, it's going to give the bread moisture. If you felt like, hey, I really need some extra calories here, use a little bit of olive oil, drizzle over it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a little bit of this on my bread as well. So I think last time we did this, we kind of talked about how you could use one, meal and make different plates for different people. So again, you've got the same base, and we're going to add our lettuce to this. And there you go. So you've got different options, different taste, a little bit of a different take, and it's easy. I made the whole meal in what is it, 15 minutes or so. So this is something that we hope will help you if you're going through taste and flavor changes, or maybe even meat is either not tasting right, or you're just looking for a way to kind of transition to a more plant-based diet. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you, Madeline.
Thank you, Nicole. Those look identical to a chicken salad sandwich and a chicken lettuce wrap. So I think that you could fool a lot of folks with that, but great job. And you have a very tasty lunch ahead of you.
I'm looking forward to it. I wish I could share it with you.
Thank you everyone for joining, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.